Māra is one of the most recognizable demons in the entire SMT series. Back in 2017, a Japanese popularity poll even ranked him as the #1 demon across the whole Megami Tensei's franchise. But let's be honest, if you click on this video, it's probably because you're wondering the same thing everyone does the first time they see him. Why does he look like that? In this video, we're going to find out exactly that by examining his design, abilities, and some fascinating trivia about this giant green monster. But for any of it to make sense, we first need to start with the root of his origin. In Buddhism, Māra is the malignant celestial king. He's often called the Temper or the Lord of the Senses because he represents death, desires, and the flaw that hold people back from enlightenment. However, Māra isn't always described in the same way. Sometimes he's portrayed as a godlike being from the realm of sensual pleasure. Other times, he's more symbolic, embodying forces like greed, hatred, or confusion. In traditional texts, there are even several distinct forms of Māra, each tied to one of these obstacles. His most famous story is the encounter with the Buddha on the eve of enlightenment. Sitting beneath the Bodhi tree in deep meditation, the Buddha is approached by Māra. First, Māra tried trickery, telling the Buddha he's needed elsewhere, that trouble is brewing back home, all in the effort to break his focus. When that failed, Māra turned to intimidation. He summoned raging storm, hail, darkness, and an army of terrifying shape to surround him. But even then, the Buddha doesn't move. He remains in meditation. So Māra changed his tactics again. This time, he sends his daughters, symbol of temptation, to lure the Buddha away from his goal. But once more, the Buddha stayed calm, unmoved by the chaos around him. Finally, Māra challenged him directly. He asks, "Who gave you the right to sit here and seek awakening?" The Buddha then answers without a word. He simply reaches down and touches the earth. That gesture called the earth itself to witness his countless lifetime of effort and virtue. The ground responds, and Māra realized he has lost. Defeated, he departs, and the Buddha continued on to enlightenment. Yet, even in his defeat, Māra's never disappeared completely. He reappears again and again, often when someone is on the verge of enlightenment, whispering doubts and testing their resolve. Now that we understand his story, the strange designs start to make a little bit more sense. Still, if we look at traditional depiction of Māra, none of them really resemble a giant penis, right? The truth is, there's more behind this unusual design choice. And now that we covered the origins, we can start exploring further. In the SMT series, Māras actually appear in 3 different designs. The first show up as early as the original Shin Megami Tensei and represent Māra himself. The second is the most common version you're probably familiar with, the one where he rides a golden chariot. The third design is the least used. It's basically just the tip or the head of Māra. Focusing on the second design, Māra's golden chariot actually has a skull on it, an allusion to his role as a symbol of death and the unholy. Looking closer at the chariot itself, you'll notice the front is fitted with several spikes. Among them are 2 large ones, pointing upward toward the sky. This is another callback to Māra lore. In many depictions of his attempt to sway the Buddha away from enlightenment, he is shown riding an elephant named Girishmekala. Those 2 spikes on the chariot are really likely meant to mimic elephant tusks. Now, in the SMT series, Māra race is classified as Tyrant. This ties back to his role as the malignant celestial king in the Buddhist law. The connection is actually even clearer in the Japanese version, where the Tyrant race is called Mao, which means Demon King. That said, in the Persona series, Māra appears as a persona of the Tower Arcana. And yeah, I know, tower, green penis, haha, right? But once you're done laughing, let's talk about the actual meaning of the tower cards. For those who don't know, despite the common misconception that death is the worst card in the deck, the tower is usually considered far worse. The cards depict a lone burning towers collapsing after being struck by lightning, with two figures falling from it to their doom. It's said to reference the Tower of Babel from the book of Genesis, which was destroyed by the god when humans tried to reach heaven. So, what does it mean? In tarot readings, there's always room for interpretation, but generally, the tower symbolizes the destruction of something strong or long-lasting, whether that's a belief or relationship or some other foundation in life. That's why when the tower appears in a reading, it's usually a warning of unavoidable collapse. And since we know Māra represents the ultimate force tempting people to abandon the path of enlightenment, this arcana suit him perfectly. When it's come to detail in Māra design beyond his appearance, there's plenty of lore references, and more importantly, sneaky innuendos that anyone who's 10 years old or at least 10 at hearts like me will find hilarious. For example, in Shin Megami Tensei 2, the first game to feature his chariot design, Māra's level is set to 69, and in many versions of the series, he's also weak to light and ice. Then there's the skill he's been giving over time, like firm stand and hail thrust. It's pretty clear that the designers were having a lot of fun with him. That said, the innuendos doesn't stop with stat and abilities. It shows up in dialogue too. In Persona 3 Reload, if you have Māra equipped and speak to Elizabeth, he has a special line just for it. Another scene even features a reunion with Girish Mikala, where Māra tries to convince him to let him ride him again. However, Girish Mikala refused. But instead of giving up, Māra responds by suggesting that maybe Girish Mikala should try riding him instead. Now, the person who designed Māra was most likely Kazuma Kaneko, the ship character designer for the SMT series at the time. I mean, even if he doesn't draw Māra directly, he almost certainly had to approve it. And here's another thing worth noting that might explain why Māra looked the way he does today. He isn't the only Blizzard-looking demon to come out of Kaneko's era. I won't traumatize you with too many examples, but here are a few. There's Master Tyrant, who look like he's hiding his own Māra in the shadow. Then there's Rahu with one coming out of his forehead. Though I admit it was pretty bold not to make it green. And even Cthulhu from Lovecraft wasn't safe, getting reimagined by the Kaneko team in their own way. And at this point though, I'm not even sure if that's counted as unique anymore, at least in this corner of the SMT universe. Now, this might sound a bit surface level compared to everything we have covered, but honestly, it feels like Kaneko just had a fascination with the reproductive organs. He's basically the SMT version of H.R. Geiger's or something. That said, there's something interesting here that makes Māra stand out against all of those other demons. While many of these demon designs get heavily censored in modern adaptation, somehow Māra has managed to survive almost untouched. He's even appeared multiple times in mass market collectibles. I mean, Good Smile actually made a figure of him. Good Smile. Good Smile. At the end of the day though, I can't say for sure why Māra gets away with so much. Maybe it's because of the tentacles and extra limb that make him look more like a monster than a penis, but honestly, I don't buy that, and I don't think anyone really does. One last detail worth mentioning though is that his name, Māra, also works as a pun. In Japanese Buddhism, Māra is slang used by monks to mean penis. That said, if you enjoy this kind of video, there are more like it on the way, and while you wait, you can check out some of other deep dive into the Persona series on our channel. Thank you for watching, and thanks for keeping the yesterday's story alive.